Hey everyone, my name is Heather Behrendt, and I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to use the Impress Bead Liner to line your Pandora size beads. So, here are a couple quick examples of what the finished product is going to look like. This is a really big one that I use for a necklace. I bought it from Haley Sang recently, so it doesn't have to be used for just Pandora bracelets, but you can. Here are some that are sized a little bit smaller for Pandora bracelets. The smallest one I got offhand. So big or small, I think it's a great skill to have. Anyways, here's what you're going to need. First thing, you're going to need a tubing cutter. You don't have to use a tubing cutter. Some people prefer to use a jeweler's saw or something a little more powered. I'm sure you could find something cheap and more efficient than this, but in a pinch this will do. It's probably between $6 and $10. Not a big investment. Next thing you're going to need is digital calipers. You can use the regular analog ones, but I think these are worth it. So much easier. 10 or 20 bucks from Harbor Freight. Don't remember, but not expensive. Next thing you're going to need, this is Dave's deburring tool. You don't have to use this. Your other options are a file. I've even heard of some people using a razor blade to kind of cut out the inner burr. Whatever's easiest, but I think this is cheap and easy. Next thing is, of course, the actual Impress tool. There's other tools you can use on the market, but I really like this one because it's pretty cheap. When I bought it, it was $90. I think it went up in price, but it's still one of the cheaper options out there. It's not big and bulky, so you can take it anywhere. I like being able to do this at my desk or in front of the TV. You don't need to it has an area so you can secure it to the desk, but I haven't found that necessary. And last thing, you're going to need some sort of pen. You use a Sharpie, anything that you'll be able to mark the copper with. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to get my copper tubing here. And we need the end to be nice. I don't know how well you can see. Can't get it to focus there, but it's not a very clean end. So what we need to do is use our deburring tool. Usually just takes a couple turns, kind of light pressure, just enough to take off that little yucky looking edge on the inside. I probably overdo it because I'm crazy. Anyways, try and get some close-up pictures so you can get a better idea. Oh, there we go, it focused a little bit. You can see that hopefully you can see that it's a nice clean edge. Next thing you're going to need is a bead. It's important to make sure that the ends are pretty even on this. You can't really have one side that's huge and one side that's tiny. It doesn't really core very well. You're probably going to crack your bead. So what I do is I turn on my calipers, set to 0. And I'll go ahead and measure my bead. Sorry, it's upside down, but the measurement itself doesn't really matter that much. Hit 0 on it, and then usually, some people add more, some people add less. I usually add between 3.5 and 4 millimeters. So it's set to 0, so I can just set the bead down. And I'm just going to pull this out until I'm at, there we go, got it at 4. Should hold it like this, but it's kind of awkward. Anyways, you're going to grab your finished end that you just deburred and mark it with your pen where you're going to want to cut. I have to set this down, unfortunately. A little too awkward to do for the camera. There we go. So as you can see, I have a little mark, and that's where I'm going to need to cut. So pipe cutters, we'll open these up a little bit. Place this inside, and like I said, you can use something better than this pipe cutter, but you'll just kind of slowly get it to grip onto that little mark that you just made. Ta-da! And you don't want to use too much pressure or else you're going to pinch off the end of this and it's not going to core very well. I do use a little bit of pressure with my fingers because otherwise this tends to wander. It's very annoying. It's, again, crappy pipe cutter. But you'll turn it a little bit. Just tighten it a touch, not too much. Turn it, tighten it a little bit, turn it, tighten it just a little bit. You want to go a little slow again because you don't want to pinch off the end here. It's very tedious. You can buy something better, but I just haven't gotten around to it, I suppose. Keep going. I suppose I could do this slower, but it takes too long. You'll feel it starting to get a little bit loose. And the end just pops off there. So here's my little cut piece. Still need to deburr the other end. There's the crappy end. A little difficult to do because you have to grip the end here. But we can do it. It's even harder to do when it's 100 degrees out and your hands are sweating. Here we go. Usually I'll do this stage, usually I do these in batches and I'll do like 10 of these at a time, get to this stage and then go on with the coring. Whatever is easiest for you. So anyways, after I've deburred it, unfortunately I always manage to screw up my cuts a little bit with this crappy little tube cutter. But it's still big enough, it's still between 3 and 4 millimeters, so it's going to be good enough. Place it inside of the bead there. Hard to get a good angle. And then we'll be setting it inside of here. There we go. What we'll do is we'll lower this down until it's just tight but not pressing down yet. There's different recipes for getting a good dome on this. I like to do a half a turn on the other side, and then quarter turns the rest of the way. So what you're going to do is move this about halfway. You can almost think of it like a clock, and you're going 30 minutes. Then you're going to undo it, flip it over, and do the same thing to the other side. Get it tight. 30 minutes. Untighten. Turn it around. I tend to like to get a more domed effect, so I do it a little slower. So after 30 minutes on each side, I go about 15 minutes. Again, switch sides. 15 minutes. This will take a little while. You can do it faster, and I used to do it faster, but the slower you go, the more of a domed effect you're going to get. You're also less likely to split the copper. The faster you go, the more likely you're going to do that. This particular copper I bought from Ginkgo. Ginkgo Designs on Etsy, I believe. You should also be able to get this from Rio Grande. Should be a lot of suppliers. Usually they'll sell sterling, copper, and brass. Most of these tools you can buy at Harbor Freight or Home Depot, I would imagine. And the rest I got from Dave's website. Here's what we're looking at so far. Not done yet. It's still loose, but you can see how it's kind of starting to come along now. So, continuing on. Another quarter turn. This is why I do this while I'm watching TV. As you get closer, you got to be careful that you don't accidentally do too much pressure and crush the bead. So just start being aware of how tight it's getting. It even tends to get a little bit harder to turn looks like it's just about done. And it looks like I'm all set here. I don't really feel the copper wiggling around. A little test. Nope. Sometimes if it is wiggling around just a little bit, I'll put it back in and give it maybe just a tiny bit of a turn. Maybe like, I don't know, 7 minutes if you're looking at it in a clock spectrum. Well, that's the finished product. I'll probably show you a couple more finished ones on my website, and I hope this tutorial was helpful.